What's up gamers, Cryptico here, and welcome back to Lowering the Mark, a show where I analyze the current and former world records of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe time trial runs to see how these records get faster over time. We'll look at elements such as the loadout, racing lines, and mushroom usage to better understand what's bringing these times down. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when my videos go live. For the penultimate episode of this series, we're jumping back to the Banana Cup one last time and taking a look at easily its best course at normal speed, DK Jungle at 150cc. On May 1st, 2017, the world record for this run was set at 2 minutes 5.178 seconds by the Japanese player Kai. Fast forward to over a year ago on October 1st, 2021, where the record was brought down to 2 minutes 1.176 seconds by the Dutch legend Stur. That's a 4-second improvement between records and a 3.2% faster time. Our former world record holder Kai has broken over 230 world records across 37 unique runs and has spent over 1,600 days holding at least one world record. Our current world record holder Stur has broken over 280 world records across only 16 unique runs and is also closing in on 1,600 days holding at least one of his 6 current world records. At pre-release, the world record for this run opened up at 207.5 and within a few days it fell by over 2 seconds, mostly thanks to Extreme and Japanese player Pekka. Shortly after his second break for 204, fellow Japanese player Torain lit up the course for the next few months. He put up 17 of the next 20 world records and brought the time all the way down to 203.7. A few days after that, Lemon stepped in and briefly challenged Torain before he pulled away and put up this 203.35 that stood as the record for over 350 days. Now in March of 2019, Omemona dethroned Torain and tore the course up thereafter. 21 of the next 24 records came from him, which included 2 second breaks for 202 and 201. Now in February of 2020, Stur stepped up and fended off the likes of Kaiman and Pump en route to 14 consecutive records that brought the record down to 201.1. In total, the record was broken 97 times by only 13 different players. The loadouts here are basically the same, but not entirely identical. Kai goes with the combo of Bowser whipping the Sports Coupe with the Azier rollers and the Plane Glider. Stur goes with Wario driving that exact configuration, but with the Paper Glider instead. Again, pretty similar stats here, but not anything identical. Kai's only advantage with this loadout is his quarter point difference in top speed, while Stur runs away with higher acceleration, handling, grip, and mini turbo stats. Even though it's basically the slimmest of margins that separate each stat, the cumulative benefit of choosing Wario with the Paper Glider here is what will allow Stur to perform these new world record strats and leave Kai's run in the dust. I really do love this track. It's got a great layout as well as a very well done jungle theme. Through the first part of it, there is a feeling of congestion, but the rest of the course makes up for it. At 200cc, we watched Panda zip through the tight course with amazing handling. For 150, it gets a bit more involved, but that same principle applies. Let's dive into it a little further. Kai hits the rocket start and chains these 3 mini turbos through the winding jungle road. After tricking off this branch, he drifts off the next zipper for a mini turbo jump boost combo off the flower. Once he lands, he'll grab this long super mini turbo around the next turn before riding out the boost across the bridge to close out S1. Stur also gets the rocket start and chains those same 3 mini turbos. Instead of tricking off the branch, he'll drift off of it and carry it off the ramp onto the flower and pair it with a jump boost. Once he lands, he too gets the long super mini turbo before going across the bridge to the end of the section. Much like these loadouts, that was pretty identical. The only difference is the one less jump boost that Stur got through this section, yet he comes out ahead thanks to his slightly better line and slightly longer lasting mini turbos. His lead now sits at over 0.2 of a second going into S2. After this quick mini turbo, Kai drifts tight into the grass and uses his mushroom to make the cut and grab the super mini turbo. After riding off the first 2 zipper ramps, he'll trick off the third one into a mini turbo entering the temple. He then chains a super mini turbo to that around the hairpin on his way to the final ramp of the section. Stur gets that same mini turbo, but cuts a bit of that turn out before using his mushroom to carry the super mini turbo all the way off the glider ramp for a mini motion glider. Once he's back on the ground, he'll carry a normal mini turbo all the way off the second zipper and trick off the third one. Now in the temple, he gets a normal mini turbo, then an ultra one through the anti-grav portion before setting himself up for a jump boost into S3. Here we noticed a few more modern strats that helped Stur. The turn skip, the motion glider after it, and that extra mini turbo before the third zipper jump boost. It was found to be faster to implement those strats through S2, and that's exactly what Stur did to stretch his lead to over 1.1 seconds going into S3. Kai hits the jump boost before heading straight off the glider ramp for another jump boost. After a calming flight down, he grabs this super mini turbo onto the lower platform and closes out the lap with the jump boost. After grabbing the jump boost, Stir starts drifting off the next ramp for a proper motion glider strat. He whips his controller to the right to get around the stone thingy and safely lands back on the ground. After that, he'll get the same super mini turbo onto the lower platform and get the jump boost to close out the lap. Aside from the motion glider, S3 was run pretty similarly by both players. As for Stir, that motion glider resulted in a much faster descent from the temple, which greatly contributed to his lead that now sits at just over 1.5 seconds after lap 1. S1 on lap 2 is also pretty similar for both racers. They each get these 3 normal mini-turbos through the winding road and either do or don't trick off the branch before carrying another mini-turbo off the ramp and onto the flower for another jump boost, after which they both grab this long super mini-turbo and ride out the boost across the bridge. Again, the only difference was that trick off the branch that Kai opted to get but not Stir. Kai ends up wasting his energy doing that because Stir's lead still grew without it. He's ahead of him by 1.9 seconds going into S2. Nothing changes for Kai here. He grabs that quick mini turbo and then uses his mushroom to chain a super mini turbo through the grass. After that, he rides off the first 2 ramps before tricking off the third one into that same normal and super mini turbo through the temple on his way to the ramp at the end of the section. Stir switches it up slightly here. After the quick mini turbo and turn skip, he uses his mushroom to get another quick mini turbo and opts to trick off the glider ramp instead. Once he lands, he similarly drifts off the first 2 ramps for the mini turbo and then tricks off the third one. Now in the temple, he'll grab that same normal and ultra mini turbo through there before reaching the ramp at the end of S2. We saw Stir make an adjustment on that shortcut which may have seemed slower, but it actually wasn't. I don't have a reason for you unfortunately, and this voice line is getting too long, so Stir's lead now sits at just over 2.3 seconds at the end of S2. Kai just hits the jump boost and tricks off the glider for that same light descent back to the course. Once there, he'll grab that same super mini turbo onto the lower platform and grabs one more jump boost to close out the lap. Let's zoom in on this motion glider from Stir. After the jump boost, he starts drifting and just barely clips the ramp to activate the glider. Once in the air with motion controls on, he whips his controller in the opposite direction to fly around the stone thingy and corrects his course so that he remains on the best line all the way to the ground. After which, he similarly grabs the same super mini turbo onto the lower platform and closes out S2 with another jump boost. Now through 2 laps, we've seen Stir implement all types of new age strats to cut the time pretty much all throughout the course, with no strat saving more time than that motion glider. Because of this, he's ahead by 2.7 seconds after outsplitting Kai's lap by 1.2 seconds. Kai starts off his final lap by grabbing these 3 normal mini turbos before tricking off the branch and drifting off the zipper for another mini turbo and jump boost off the flower. Once he comes out of that, he'll grab this long super mini turbo around the next turn and rides out the boost across the bridge. After grabbing this quick mini turbo, he'll use his final mushroom to cut through this grass for another super mini turbo. He then rides off the first 2 zippers again before tricking off the third one into that quick mini turbo into the temple. Around the hairpin, he'll get a super mini turbo and follow that up with 2 more jump boosts into the glide. To close out the race, he'll get that super mini turbo onto the lower platform and 1 more jump boost before crossing the finish line. Stir opens up his final lap in a similar way by grabbing the same 3 mini turbos before the ramp and chains that with a mini turbo jump boost combo off the flower. Once he lands, he too gets that super mini turbo around the next turn before grabbing another quick mini turbo into this tiny turn skip and final mushroom cut, resulting in another mini turbo and trick off the glider. He then drifts off 2 of the 3 ramps for a mini turbo and tricks off the last one. Upon entering the temple, he'll get that normal and ultra mini turbo before tricking off the ramp and setting up the motion glider. After drifting off the ramp, he flies around the stone thingy one last time and closes out the race with a super mini turbo onto that low platform before 1 final jump boost. His final time would end up being just a hair over 4 seconds faster than Kai's former world record. So by staying on slightly better lines, grabbing more mini turbos, and motion glider, Stir was able to cap off his 14th consecutive record with the ever so elusive 0.1 tenth break. Since he posted that 201.9 back in February of 2020, the record has gone down by well over 8 tenths of a second, and it's mostly thanks to him. With all this improvement, it begs the question of whether there are a few more tenths that could be knocked off this record. The best known splits for this run show that this record could potentially be flirting with another second break. Stir owns all 3 of the best known laps, and one of which was part of this world record. The next 2 laps could each be around 80 milliseconds faster, and if he could just find one more frame on top of that, Stir would bring this course down to the 2-minute mark. That's for sure easier said than done because the run we just took a look at was already pretty perfect, but it's exciting to see that there's enough theoretical improvement that could be done to achieve another second break. Maybe Stur will get there one day, or maybe someone else might beat him to it. The worldwide top 10 consists of 3 national and 2 continental record holders. Stur sits at the top, a few tenths back is Asian record holder Kaiman in second, and just a hair behind him in third is Pump. In fourth place we have Ronnie, and the next 4 players share just a tenth of a second in separation and consist of Sasayuki, Shira, Kurorin, and Smile. To close out the board at 9 and 10, separated by 6 1,000ths of a second, is Fun and Australian record holder Panda. Stur has quite the history on this run and remains the only player to put up a .3, .2, and a .1 on this course. With multiple tenths separating him from the next best in the world, and the fact that this record has lasted for well over a year already, it's pretty safe to assume that this record is safe for at least a little longer. That's all for episode 93. Hope you found it interesting. Hope you're all ready because on November 7th, the final episode of Lowering the Mark will be released. I know you expected it for next week, but I have a scheduling conflict that will prevent me from putting out the finale I know you all deserve, so just keep being patient. It will be rewarded. As always, if you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your friends, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.